Doesn't look like it's going to do what I wanted it to do. So just give me a second, guys, so I can go outside, get this party started. So I started a little bit early because I wanted to get this gimbal thing dialed in for me. But it looks like I still have auto control, so that's kind of cool. I got this gimbal that it would follow, like track my face, like face tracking or whatever. But that's better than with a sharp. All right, so I'm Attorney Michael Ehline. And I got up at dark 30 today so I could try out my new gimbal without freaking too many people out. People trip out when they see some dude walking down the street with camera equipment, as most of my friends from the First Amendment auditor community know. And I wanted to talk about Communist Fornia's Assembly Bill 1127. It just passed the Assembly and now it's going before the state Senate. And just to give you a little bit about my background. Hey, what's going on? Good point fire, 100%. Hoorah, Steve Conkler, right on. So my background is that although I've been practicing law about 20 years and I'm licensed in California and Texas, my first love is Second Amendment rights, civil rights law, and I do personal injury law to make money, to support my family and to be able to go to the SHOT Show and support my friend Dick Heller of District of Columbia versus Heller. I'm the guy who introduced chili to Dick, and my buddy Alan Beck, who's one of the best Second Amendment rights lawyers in the country, also an inactive United States Marine, introduced me to Dick Heller. And so it's kind of passing the football down to try to get the word out there about your God-granted, unalienable rights to keep and bear arms. Just to give you a little bit about my background. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the show so far. Yesterday I covered a little bit about the Army parade and pointed out a lot of the protocols and stupid stuff that Hegseth did, and just the total lack of discipline of the regular Army troops, how embarrassing it was to watch them march, and compare them to the U.S. Marines, just how basic U.S. Marine recruits march better than these guys, and they're supposed to be experienced, disciplined troops. And I did a counterpoint to the Green Beret from Valhalla, who said that, well, if you're a Ranger or a Green Beret, marching doesn't matter. You're supposed to be a war fighter. And I took exception to that because I think that it shows discipline and good order. And I think that's why the Marines are still the last of the true military, because they understand that when your enemy sees you marching in good order and with good bearing and discipline, they know that these guys are animals and they have every right to be terrified. And when you're just smoking and joking and marching along, dragging your knuckles, not showing good order and discipline, it shows a break in leadership, in my opinion. So anyways, let's get back into the Second Amendment. Hopefully you guys saw that show yesterday. I thought it was pretty cool. So in any event, people are already looking at me driving like assholes. What's this guy doing holding this gimbal? He must be one of these First Amendment auditors. Hold on a second. All right. So today, hey, salam alaikum, Jungle Luke. Steve Conkler, good seeing you, dude. Out freaking standing. At least I got some highly motivated Americans here with me this morning. It looks like I lost a lot of my subscribers when I didn't support the communist Chinese funded and supported insurrection in California, in communist Fornia, where Joe Biden flooded our country with 20 million illegal aliens for the sole purpose of giving them a welfare check, Medicare and Medi-Cal benefits, and making sure that they could redistrict the entire state, the entire country blue, using the United States Census count. And that is the only reason we have sanctuary cities is because it's a magnet for illegal aliens who get free stuff. Less than 3% of the 20 million estimated illegals who came into our country actually work or have jobs. They're all receiving some kind of government benefit. And if they do work, they work illegally with stolen social security numbers. And I know from doing workers' compensation law that they will typically claim 99 dependents and not pay any federal income tax at all. And then when they get caught, they'll just use a different social security number. And we know based on statistics that whatever taxes they do pay is eaten up by the benefits that they receive from the taxpayer. So this is another story coming out of Communist-fornia, the Glock ban. And so we know that the Marxist-run leadership of the state of California loves to ban your Second Amendment rights. And this is another bill that was passed on party lines based on the supermajority Democrat stranglehold that they have over the state of California. And this was Assembly Bill 1127. And it just passed the Assembly, I believe, on the 5th. And now it's headed to the California Senate, another supermajority Marxist Democrat stronghold in Communist-fornia. And what this is going to do is it's going to ban all Glock handguns, the most commonly used handgun probably in the world, in violation of the Constitution and the Second Amendment, of course, like it always does. So, yeah, right on 100%. Pretty soon, I already had to move out of the state, and I'm a California attorney, so that's how serious I am about my God-granted Second Amendment right, which isn't even really a right granted by the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment and the Bill of Rights simply recognize a pre-existing right of all free men to be able to defend themselves against tyrannical government, as well as against foreign invaders who invade their home and hearth and try to wreak havoc on their wives and kids. Hey, what's going on? What's the matter? You? Good seeing you, brother. So I hope you like this new gimbal here. All right. So, looks pretty good so far. Yeah, now normally I have like this auto thing set up, what's the matter you, where the camera automatically follows me, but it's not doing that right now. It's kind of like doing its own thing. But I'm using a gimbal today because my hands are so sore from holding this damn cell phone. So we'll discuss this Assembly bill, but first I want to get into a little bit about what it is. So with a Glock, like any gun, any rifle, any pistol, you can convert it into full auto with a sear pin. And it's very easy to do with any firearm, but again, the Marxist Democrats in California realized if they can get Glocks banned because they're easier to convert, they call it readily convertible, then the next step is to make all handguns illegal. And so their first step, the Marxist Democrats in California, their first step to try and ban firearms, handguns in California, was to create what's called the drop list. So at the factory, every firearms manufacturer has to undergo a safety test to make sure that a firearm just won't go off by itself. But California said, wait a minute, what we'll do is we'll charge the manufacturer like an extra $100 or $200 per gun to force them to have it added to what we call the drop list. And basically what that means, if you drop it like from a ladder, fully loaded, and it doesn't go off for your $200 or $300, whatever it is we charge per gun, then we'll add you to the drop list and you can sell the newer model of your gun in California. So because of that, in Communist-fornia, you can't buy a new generation Glock. I think when I was there, you could only get a 3rd gen Glock, which is still a great gun, don't get me wrong, but who doesn't want the Gen 5? So one of the very first things I did when I moved to the free state, non-communist controlled state of Nevada, was to buy a Gen 5 Glock. And I gotta tell you, in G17 in this case, because I've already got so many of them. But I really like it. I like the action. I think that I like the trigger. I think that the reset is a lot smoother than the Gen 3. And I have a G34 Gen 3, which is basically a G17, all right? So hopefully you guys understand that. Hopefully I got some people in here who understand firearms, because obviously the Marxist Democrats have no clue. But what they do know is they want to ban all firearms and all guns, just like their model, the United Kingdom, because it's far easier to subjugate the population when you don't have the ability to defend yourself against tyranny. In my opinion, that's what they're trying to do anyways, because they want to be like communist China, a single-party state, single-party rule. And again, they do that by creating a sanctuary city magnet and giving billions upon billions of taxpayer dollars to illegal aliens to help them resettle here. And I discussed earlier that less than 3% of them actually work. So by some estimates, 20 million of them that came here, less than 3% actually work. And that's a fact. So when I heard people complaining about the 50 million that Orange Man Bad spent on a patriotic parade yesterday, I was laughing because I don't hear any of them complaining about the billions of dollars I'm forced to spend to allow my cities and states and towns to be invaded by people who wave Mexican flags and burn American flags and throw bricks at our fellow Americans. So now let's get back on track. No, it's absolutely true. What's the matter, you? And in fact, because of my experience in workers' compensation law, I know that the vast majority of illegal alien claimants use fake social security numbers that they share with 30 or 40 other guys. They claim 99 dependents, and they pay little to no federal income taxes. And anything that they do pay in tax benefits based upon official government statistics is eaten up in the free benefits that taxpayers provide them. And that's a fact. So, and we can have that debate another day, because today we're going to talk about firearms. But I think it's hilarious that people complain about a patriotic parade, but don't complain about the billions of dollars that we've spent ushering in illegal aliens into sanctuary cities. Absolute disgrace. So basically with these Glocks, the state of California has just passed a bill, the California State Assembly, that allows, and on party lines, I think it was like 34 Democrats and 17 Republicans. The Republicans voted against it. And as always, the Democrats vote in favor of taking away your Second Amendment rights. And I'm a libertarian, so I don't really have a lot of skin in the game, except for the fact that I do appreciate it that at least facially, the Republicans toe the line against restricting firearms rights much more than the Marxist communist Democrats. So what I'm going to do today is I like to motivate people to work out and hit the gym. Yeah, the illegals that Biden brought in, what's the matter, you? Less than 3% actually work. And how could they work? They're not even supposed to be in the country, and they have not been granted TPS, so they can't get jobs anyways. And what's really funny is, how do you think, why would they want to work when they get a free cell phone, they get free hotels, SNAP benefits, and a lot of other benefits that American citizens don't get? All right, so there's a couple people here working out. Before I get into the assembly bill that was just passed, that's going to take away your right to have a Glock in the state of California, I'm going to do a little lawyer workout to motivate all you guys. All right. So first step, guys, I gained about 10 to 15 pounds the last 2 months while I had sciatica, so I was really screwed up. And so what I'm going to do is, oh, and they do get benefits, Marlene. You need to stop watching CNN. Communist News Network is not a valid source of news, and they absolutely get benefits. You need to stop looking at ChatGPT and Grok as well. It's programmed by the same globalists who want to destroy our country the way they did the United Kingdom. and France and most of Europe. All right, let's get into it. So we're gonna crank out 20 regular push-ups, all right? So all you guys that are over 40 or 50, this is what you need to be doing at dark 30 every morning. We'll do 20. All right, then you want to stretch it out. Oh man, it's killing me. Yeah, the same people who say that illegal aliens don't get benefits, free cell phones, and free hotels other than being blind are the same people who say that the communist Democrats don't want to ban firearms. So that's why they have zero credibility with me. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. Yeah, people who say that have their heads up their ass. They have no idea what they're fucking talking about. All right. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do some pull-ups. Now again, your lats are the second largest muscle group in your body. So very, very important that you work your lats. And also that you stretch. Little judo exercise. Teaches you how to get kazushi and then trip your opponent. Get a nice little satisfying throw. All right. Yeah. Man, I gotta tell you guys, no, for me, Lee, I was a six-pack guy. The fitness goal is just fitness. I used to be a bodybuilder, semi-pro, was completely huge, massive, 18-inch biceps, the whole 9 yards. But I got sciatica and put on a bunch of weight. So it's just to cut down the extra 10 or 15 that I put on, get rid of this freaking extra chin down here, and maintain the muscle mass. And well, what's the matter you? It's not that I'm worried about it. It's just that they're illegally in our country. And I agree we need to deal with big pharma. But why on earth would you want to invite a bunch of illegal aliens in so they can redistrict the entire country blue? That's crazy. We already see what blue states are trying to do with firearms. They're just speeding up the evolution of stripping the American people of their unalienable God-granted rights. So while we work on developing a multi-party system, it makes sense that we don't help the Democrats get more power so they can take away more of our freedoms and liberties at a much faster pace, at least with respect to the Second Amendment, than the Marxist, communist, anti-American, insurrectionist Democrats who are rioting and destroying our cities with help from the Communist Chinese Party and anti-American insurrectionists. Give me a bunch of ones if you guys agree. And of course that's what it's about. That's why they have sanctuary cities. Because if they can get enough illegals into a sanctuary city, the census is automatically used to redistrict and create a new district. And by most estimates, if California evicted its illegal aliens, the state of California would lose at least 5 Democrat seats. So of course that's what it's about. They're not bringing them here because they care about them. They're flooding the country with illegal alien hostiles so they can gain more power. Otherwise, they would have no use for these people. So let's just use common sense like a lawyer. And so if you have any evidence, because I have evidence, direct and circumstantial, that that's why they do it, saying that's not what this is about without providing evidence doesn't support your case. I'm just saying that as a lawyer. But let's get back into the Glock, man, because that's what we're here to talk about. So, hey, what's up, 1st Infantry? Forgive you for being in the Army, but I still love you, brother. Here. But anytime you want to come and do some close order drill with me, I can teach you how to do it the right way. Hoorah! Huh? No, well, it was a Republican stronghold, 1st Infantry, before the Democrats realized they could use illegal aliens to redistrict the state blue. And again, every time you bring a bunch of illegals up here and put them into a sanctuary Democrat stronghold, what that does is it gives the government the ability to split the district and create more Democrat congressional seats, and that's what they use it for. So, and that's a fact. Nobody can argue that that's not true. It's an absolute fact. So let's get into Assembly Bill 1127. So it just passed the Assembly and it's going up to the Senate. And what that has to do is readily convertible pistols, okay? So what the Assembly's trying to do is say, well, you guys, if you guys have ever heard of a Glock switch, so the Glock switch basically enables you to sort of block, it's like a sear pin basically. And what happens is now that sear pin's not in place because they put that little switch, and I have a diagram on the artwork of this video that shows you how that works. So, and I'm not spouting anything up, brother. I'm just stating facts. I mean, if you look, that's exactly what the U.S. Census is used for the Democrats, to redistrict and split districts, and it always has been. And I provided statistics in other shows, and I've shown you that California would lose at least 5 House seats if the illegal aliens were removed from the state of California, because they would lose those districts. So it's all based on body count, because the illegals are counted in the census. And if they weren't, I guarantee you Joe Biden would have never opened up the southern border and spent billions of dollars to house, feed, and free cell phone these illegal aliens that he invited across our border that are not working, by the way. All right, and why would they when they get almost $5,000 a month in monthly benefits by some estimates? Okay, so basically it's a really vague. So the first bill got shot down because it was too vague. So what they did is they changed the language a little bit. And so what this bill is going to do is basically it talks about readily convertible firearms. In other words, any kind of handgun that can be readily converted into a fully automatic handgun. And I can convert any firearm within a couple of minutes into full auto, whether it's a Glock or not. So they're all readily convertible, and that's their end game. Because if they can get this bill passed, they know that they can very easily do the same thing they tried to do with AR-15s and magazine bans and everything else. So it's the first step in total tyranny by the Marxist Communist Democrat Party. All right, so it was passed on party lines 58-17. I believe it was on June 3rd. And what it has to do with the cruciform trigger bar mechanism. So they changed the language to include cruciform trigger bar mechanism. And that's the same mechanism that is used by Shadow Systems. And Shadow Systems just spent a ton of money to get off the drop list, or get on the drop list, the drop roster. And since they also have a similar trigger mechanism, they're now going to have their handguns banned in California too. And we know that's the end game for the Democrats. They hate firearms. They don't like it that people can defend themselves from the illegal foreign invaders that they've invited into our country that throw bricks at fellow Americans and block freeways. So naturally, they don't want you to be able to have a handgun either. All right, so now I'm a little cooled down. So what we'll do, because I can't do any more pull-ups, guys. I mean, I am jacked up. So I'm gonna do some rows really quick, and then we'll head on back to the fob. All right. Yeah. Oh man. Whew. Oh. All right. Let's do it. Hey, what's up, Jeff Hates Pigs? Good seeing you. So you guys will see I've got a lot of different people on my channel. What's the matter? Use like my like the angel on my other shoulder, my conscience. So don't trash talk him, he's a brother. It's like two brothers who argue about shit. But I know I have the facts on my side, and I've got over 20 years practice as a lawyer, so I know what I'm talking about. And I just work on evidence, not emotions. So, in any event, hopefully you guys like this cool little jungle gym that I found. So, one of the lessons that I want to teach you guys is that there's no excuse not to go to the gym, or at least make it and do a walk to the park. Try to walk at least a mile. What I'm going to do is, I still have some time before the markets open. I'm going to try to get some options this morning on FAS and UVIX, because I think that the Israeli war is going to suck us into a third world war. And because of Joe Biden's open border for the last 4 years, it's highly likely that the Iranians have smuggled in weapons of mass destruction and sleeper cells into our country. It's highly likely, due to those open borders, in violation of the Constitution. Remember, the president's primary obligation is to protect our borders from foreign invasion. Due to that, over 50,000 military-age male, by most estimates, Chinese communists flooded into our country, and untold numbers of jihadists and people from Iran who probably mean to do us harm came into the country unchecked, along with fentanyl. And the only people who really benefited were the drug cartels, who pillage, rape, and molest these children that they bring across, and they get about 10 grand per illegal. So we know that the drug cartels make an enormous amount of money off of this. So let's get into a little bit more about the Glock. Okay, so the target of the Marxist Communist Democrats was to make sure that they could find the most readily convertible handgun first. And then if they can get that passed, we know that with their leftist judges at the Ninth Circuit, they'll be able to probably uphold that legislation until such time as they get another Obama or Biden type president in power. And then they'll be able to put another Ketanji Brown in, who can't even tell you the difference between a male and a female, who is anti-Second Amendment in there. And then these laws will be upheld. But in the meantime, what's going on is we have this bill that is before the California Senate, that basically says all Glocks and Shadow Systems firearms, handguns, will be banned. So the most commonly used handgun in the United States, by most estimates, the Glock, will now be banned in the state of California until such time as, it maybe goes up to the Supreme Court and we don't have some additional Ketanji Browns in there. So what's going to end up happening is, the game plan now is, because they keep losing at the Second Amendment level with the higher courts, is to come up with these obscure arguments about being able to convert one to full auto, because fully automatic firearms were outlawed, unfortunately, years ago, legislatively. So the idea is, they can say, well, all handguns can be made, all Glocks can be made full auto. And then later they'll come back and say, well, wait, 1911s can be made full auto too, right? And that's the goal. That is absolutely their goal. The Marxist, Communist, Stalinist Democrats want to take away all of your guns. Make no mistake about it. That is the end game. So what's going to happen now is, once it gets passed by the Senate, you know that Gavin Newsom is going to sign it into law, and they're in effect going to make Glock handguns illegal. Well, how did this happen? Well, I believe that it starts with the public school system. In California and some states, Democrat states, they're trying to say that math and reading, English in particular, is racist. So in their mind, everyone gets a trophy, everyone graduates, but they don't know anything, but they feel good about themselves. They don't teach civility or civics anymore. So these kids end up getting into gangs, end up doing drugs, and they know they can use a 3D printer to create what's called the Glock switch. And so that Glock switch, again, it cuts off the sear pin to where the weapon fires full auto. And anyways, that's sort of the rundown that I have on my view, is that it's the government itself that's creating all these monsters. And then their solution is to pass a law to restrict more and more of our freedoms. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree that that's what they want to do. They want to have low IQ voters who will vote on party lines to strip themselves of their own rights based on some race-based or sexual preference-based argument that has nothing to do with your unalienable rights. And by the way, I'm breathing heavy because I got a 25-pound plate in my backpack, and I'm going up a grade that's about 15%. So that's about a 15% uphill grade. So it's kicking my ass. And that's because I'm in Nevada, and the Nevada sidewalks are designed to flow off rainwater because they have flash floods out here big time. So absolutely 100%. It's not really about a battle between Republicans and Dems. It's just common sense. All the bills in California are being passed on party lines. And I get it that you don't like either party, and neither do I. But I also know that at least the Republicans vote in favor of, at least facially, in favor of my Second Amendment rights. And they're the ones who vote against these laws that restrict my ability to have a handgun. So that's always a good thing. And the conservative judges are the ones who made it passable for District of Columbia versus Heller to become positive law. Again, another party line decision. The Democrat judges voted against it, and the conservative judges voted in favor of it, much to the chagrin of the left, because we know that the left wants us to be just like communist China, period. And we know that communist China, with their proxies, are in fact funding these insurrectionists who are burning down our cities. So why wouldn't you want to be able to have a Glock to protect yourself, a striker-fired pistol that's easy to use? And that's what the argument is this morning. So the sear pin issue makes it an easy target because these gang members and people like that realize they could pop in a special thing at the very back of the pistol. I'm not going to get into all the different names of parts that essentially makes the Glock full auto. Now, why would they want it to be full auto? Well, because none of these guys know how to shoot. So they spray. To me, firing a pistol in full auto is stupid. I'd want to, for me, I'm a double tap guy, right? So if I'm carrying a Glock 21, I'm going to have 13 in the mag and one in the hole, 14 rounds ready to go. Big 45 ACP. I know I can double tap, get a center mass shot, and I can take down most threats. But these gang members and uneducated people, they like having the full auto. And what that does is it sprays a lot more ammo so they can possibly hit what they're shooting at. You know, because they shoot like this. Hey, yo, I'm gonna shoot you, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah. So they don't even aim. They don't understand body mechanics. They don't understand Weaver and modified Weaver stance. They don't really go to a gun range because their guns are illegal. And obviously none of them served in the military, so they don't really understand trigger discipline or muzzle discipline. They point their muzzles at each other like idiots, and they actually take each other out quite a bit. So that's another issue for another day. But the issue is, once California passes this bill, Marxist, communist, Colorado is going to do the same thing, and all the other Democrat states will do the same thing. They'll move to ban Glocks. And again, the single most popular handgun in the United States. And so I would say pick up your phone and call your legislator, but we know nothing's going to happen, right? It's already a foregone conclusion that that's what's going to happen. So, and the other thing that I would encourage you guys to do is to start trying to form parallel systems in supporting third-party candidates. So at least we can throw a wrench into the works to prevent them from passing legislation like this. It's really an abomination to our fundamental, unalienable rights. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. .357 SIG beats 9 mil. You think they will? No, I don't know. You know, I have to read the bill further because there was an amendment. There's a chance they may try to grandfather it. They may have to meet constitutional requirements, but I wouldn't count on it. They'll probably do some kind of buyback program, scare all the female voters. Try to, oh, you gotta take your Glock, honey. It's so dangerous. Oh my God, it might jump off the table and shoot someone. So that's sort of what they do. Morning, guys. Little barking cats, I like to call them. Beautiful day today, by the way, guys. Stunning. Let me see if I can. Here, hold on. I don't know if you can see that, but those are the Red Rock Mountains. Just stunning. The sun rising in the east really gets those mountains drop dead gorgeous. Yeah, just gorgeous. All right, hold on. All right. So the bottom line is that once this legislation gets passed, it will be a green light for the other blue states to do the same. And even if it gets overturned on appeal, like these district court judges in the Ninth Circuit, they'll hold shit up for 3-4 years sometimes. And that's the game. That's the game. The Marxist judges that were put into power by Obama and Biden, their job now is to toe the line and to hold things up as long as they can until the illegal aliens that they brought into their country can redistrict the entire state blue, the entire country blue. And once that happens, it's game over for the Second Amendment. There won't be anything left. It'll be like the United Kingdom where you have to get a special permit just to own a shotgun. If you own an AR, it'll have to be converted to bolt action like they did in the UK. And obviously it's much easier to subjugate a populace with tyranny if they don't have the ability to defend themselves against tyranny. And when I hear Sleepy Joe talk about, well, you don't need guns anyways, because what are you going to do against an F-16? Well, Sleepy Joe ban. And all they had was prehistoric AK-47s with 7.62 by 39 rounds. So, sir, and they readily and handily defeated you, Sleepy Joe, with all your F-16s and all your billions of dollars in equipment. And you went ahead and allowed them to keep the billions of dollars in military equipment when you surrendered to our enemy, the Taliban, and you just left it there for them. So think about that, Sleepy Joe, and all you people who think that we don't need firearms because we can't fight back against an F-16. We know that that's not true. So we've seen it with our own eyes. So nice try, communist, Marxist, Democrats. Your argument fails. Overruled. So Second Amendment is not a privilege. It is an amendment in the Bill of Rights that recognizes a pre-existing right of self-defense. And the primary reason that the colonists went to war against the king is because he tried to seize our powder houses. In other words, he tried to seize our guns. But over the years, with the public school brainwashing of our kids into thinking that guns are evil, there's a lot of people who are on board with stripping us of our Second Amendment rights. So what are my recommendations? Number one, homeschool your children. Don't allow them anywhere near systems with people like what's the matter you. Even though we don't agree on everything, we agree on the fundamental things that matter. Don't make friends with people just because they think and act like you. That's a communist Marxist Democrat move. No, you need to have people that can bring a difference of opinion, a different point of view into the argument. And then, did I say, I guess, give me some 5x5s, because it looks like we lost most of our people. That usually tells me. What do you guys think? Okay, it looks like people are coming back. Give me some 5x5s that you guys can hear me. I know I'm in a drop zone, so. Am I back? Am I back? Okay, right on. Okay, I don't know how much you guys lost of me, but watch out for this Glock ban. It's the next step in the evolution of the left trying to strip us of our Second Amendment rights. And the fact that a Glock can be readily convertible really shouldn't matter to you as Americans. What should matter to you as Americans is, why is it that our youth in these inner cities are taught from birth that white people are oppressors and that everyone else is oppressed? Why aren't they being taught unity like Martin Luther King Jr. taught? Why aren't they being taught firearms, safety? Why aren't they going out to a range and learning how to shoot? Why are they being taught that guns are evil? You know, why is that? So fundamentally, the issue is we need to change the system from within, starting with education. Well, how do we do that? Well, the first thing that we need to do is get rid of this racist, anti-white rhetoric from the school systems and this DEI crap that allows someone to be put in a position of power who has less knowledge, skill, and training based upon if they like to ball someone of the same sex, based upon if they're a woman or a transvestite or whatever they are, and start putting people into positions of authority who are qualified based upon experience, knowledge, and skill. The next thing we need to do is make it mandatory for all people who want to enter our country and become citizens that they undergo a course in American history so they can learn about our founding fathers, about our Bill of Rights, and what makes America different than the other countries, being a constitutional republic where the government is supposed to be bound by the chains of the Constitution. When you flood your country with people from Roman civil law democracies who have been taught from birth that they have no rights except for what the government gives them, naturally they're not going to push back. And particularly low IQ countries, like 70 and below IQs, that's what the left wants, people who are easy to subjugate. We don't want that. We want people as real Americans who understand civility, who understand civil rights, who understand the Bill of Rights, and understand that the history of America was founded and based upon a bloody revolution that basically forced the king to recognize our unalienable rights. And so before you just let someone walk across your border, you need to make sure that they're not an enemy of the way that you think, that they're not an enemy of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. And you want to make sure that all children and people that come into this country to become citizens are forced to recognize and take an oath of allegiance to the fundamental principles that gave Americans their freedom. Because we're always just one generation away from losing that freedom. And if you can get the minds of children after one generation, the KGB knew this when they infiltrated our school systems, and so do the communist Chinese who have the Confucian societies and pay off these Marxist professors and help fund these insurrections. They know this, and so they're after the minds of the kids. So again, the Glock ban is a symptom that needs a cure. And the main thing that all of you guys need to remember is if you're in your car and you're mobbed by these people and they start throwing bricks through the window because you're the wrong skin color, for example, you need to be able to have access to a firearm. If the government created the problem, then we, the people, need to create a solution. And the solution is already there. And it's called the Second Amendment. And the Second Amendment enables you to protect yourself and your family from these violent insurrectionists who hate our country and who in particular hate white people, believe it or not, because that's what they teach you in the public schools, that white people are oppressors, right? Critical race theory, ridiculous. And being in an interracial marriage and having mixed kids, it really makes me angry. And that's another reason why we pulled our kids out of public school, because these teachers literally try to tell these kids that are mixed that your dad's really just a slave holder. He's really just a slave master, and that he's really not a good guy. And that's just ridiculous. That is not what we want. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. We don't want that for our kids. 2A all day. Yeah, Roger, we're pretty evil, I know. And I think everyone does like white cake. Hey, Jeff hates pigs. Thanks for the ones, brother. Man, I got to show you guys this. Hold on, take a look at this. Wow, look at those mountains. Damn. See, and I recommend you guys read the Bible too. Rejoice in the day and be glad in it. At least read Psalms and Proverbs, right? Pick up your sword and defend your family. Like, learn what the Bible says. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of good stuff in there. So I'm headed back to the fob. Anybody got any questions for me before I start my day? Before the market's open, so I can get some UVIX options before the Iranians set off some nukes inside of our own country for arming the Israelis, right? After the open borders, where they just were able to walk across and bring in weapons of mass destruction, perhaps, into our country. I don't think you guys have any idea what's coming because of Sleepy Joe's open borders. All right, so preach it, Roger. That's right. That's right. Sign up. The sword and the armor of God. Jeff hates pigs. Can you have $1? Sure. And I haven't been asking you guys for donations, but if you want to, throw me $1.99 or something, just so I can show my wife that I wasn't just idly spending time. She hates it that I spend so much time doing these shows, because as a lawyer, I can bill at $500 an hour and work on cases and stuff. So it's like, in her mind, it's like, why are you doing this? It's not making the family any money. At least, get someone to buy your book or something. And I'm like, because, babe, it's not about me, and it's not even about the family. It's about making sure that when we pass away, that we educate people and teach them about their fundamental unalienable rights, because they're not learning about it in the public schools. And the colleges basically teach everybody that all of our founding fathers were evil. They were all whites who had slaves, and they're no good. And so when they do that and they destroy their statues and whatnot, then it's easy for them to say the First Amendment was evil because a slaveholder wrote it. Second Amendment's evil because a white evil slaveholder colonist wrote it. So it's easy for them to strip us of all of our rights because they've already created the environment to do that. Oh my gosh, Chevy, thanks, bro. Chevy just threw me $1. That was dope. Guys, give me a bunch of ones for Chevy for supporting my channel this whole time, especially when Chili was locked up. It was really hard for me to run his channel and mine to try to keep him relevant till he was able to come back. So I really do appreciate you, Chevy. Thank you so much. And you might laugh, hey, it was only $1. Hey, you know what, guys? Some of you guys, $1 might be worth $50 to me, so it matters. But hopefully you guys got a little bit of a history lesson and learned about the pending legislation before the California Senate that will outlaw all Glocks and Shadow Systems firearm pistols. And do yourselves a favor and look up the California drop list so you can understand why you can only get a Gen 3 Glock unless you're a cop. So they exempted police, of course. So police are able to get Gen 5 Glocks, which is ridiculous, but we the people can't. I mean, why is it that a law enforcement officer has more rights than we the people? Have you ever thought about that? Why is it that a law enforcement officer has more rights than we the people? Thank you, Steve Conkler. $20 from Steve. Again, guys, when my guys do this for me, it helps me a lot with my woman. So make sure to always support their channels and like and subscribe to their stuff. Here, I'm gonna try to go into the house here. See if I can get my freaking doggone keys. Stand by. Platoon. Stand by. Hold on, guys. Yeah, I'm one of those wacky radicals that tries to have a firearm in every room of the house. Hold on, guys. One of those crazy white supremacist, right? with an interracial marriage, but the Democrats say that I'm a white supremacist. Unbelievable. So let me show you. So we'll just go into the bedroom here. Thank you, Chevy. You're the man, dude. So forgive the mess, but so we got our HK. Hold on. We've got a VP9 right here, right? Ready to go, good to go. Locked on, squared away. Hold on. I would take you on a tour, but I've just got too much stuff. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. I know I'm not like a lot of these other guys that have shows where I just stick with the actual issue because I try to show that the significance, the tie-in with politics and how all these laws are being passed and sponsored by people who are in opposition to our fundamental unalienable rights as Americans. And I try to show you how communist China is pushing this stuff. And they basically took over from the KGB after the Soviet Union fell. And they realized that if they could get into our public schools and our colleges, that they could brainwash the next generation of Americans and confuse them, right? If you go to China and try to burn an American flag, you'll be executed. I'm sorry, strike that. A Chinese flag, you'll be executed. If you go to Mexico and try to burn a Mexican flag, you'll be imprisoned probably for life. These guys don't mess around. But somehow it's okay to do it to our own country. And whether or not you like our current government, look, you can love your country and not love your government. And that's something that I really want to impress upon you. You can love your country, but not love your government. You cannot love what they do. But you can also change things. And that's something that I'm trying to convince Reluctant Prophet to do. Out in Arizona, I'm trying to convince him to run for sheriff. If you guys can help me out by going over to his channel and encourage him to run for sheriff, I will leverage my channel to raise funds for him to do that. You guys know that I supported Lane Myers, and I still support Lane Myers. You know that he had to plead out because he was strong-armed into pleading out, which is terrible. You know, I'm still devastated about that, but that's just the way it is. So, well, China is the Fed, what's the matter you? If you look at it more deeply, you'll see that the privately run Federal Reserve Bank has more in common with the Communist Chinese than it does with people who support the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I can guarantee you that, brother. So, and then, okay, there you go, CMMs. So what my recommendation is we get active. We get active like all the Marxist communists who took over our school boards. And we start running for school board, we start running for sheriff, and we start at the local level because these guys have billions of dollars from like George Soros and all these anti-American individuals who hate Americans and hate America. And what we can do is with social media, with the tool that they originally wanted to use to subjugate us, with social media, we can promote people who are like-minded. And with that being said, tonight I'm going to do a show with John Felix. I still have to get it posted. Hey, what's up, SW Observer? Thanks for supporting my show, brother. SW Observer, he's someone who understands the tyranny of globalism. His government flooded his country with sub-Saharan Africans with IQs of minus 70, and the RAPE rates went up by over 40% by some estimates in his country because their religion says if you don't cover your body from head to toe, that the men can have their way with you. And so he lives in a country that's facing the consequences of importing low IQ people with a religion that's hostile to a Republican form of government or even a democracy. Remember, these are jihadis who believe that the only way you can have peace is by converting everyone to your religion. And we don't want that, do we, guys? We want the religion of freedom, where freedom reigns. And SW Observer can absolutely tell you about that. But I'm not saying that they're really similar. I'm saying that the communist Chinese are definitely in cahoots with the privately run Federal Reserve System. But I think that where what's the matter, you might be right. Hey, what's going on, Jay Sharp? 1776, bro. Her. I think the issue is going to be with BRICS. So as the Chinese, the Russians, and the Iranians move forward to establish their BRICS currency, the banker masters in Israel who control the Fed are going to have a problem with that. So that's where I would agree with what's the matter you, in that what's going to end up happening is probably Israel will attack Iran, the ally of Russia, and while they're testing their drone technology in the Ukraine against Russia and the other BRICS countries. So I believe that it'll force China into a position where either they go back and support our fiat currency, reserve currency system, or it's World War III. And I think that's really what this war is about, guys. I don't think it has anything to do with anything else other than the BRICS currency versus the US fiat currency reserve currency system. What do you guys think? Tell me what you guys think. Anyways, and then D-Bone 1110, go back to Berkeley, because this is actually truth. Since you get your information from the Communist News Network, I could understand why you would call this misinformation. And you probably also think that Glocks need to be banned, that guns are evil, and that all white people are oppressors. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'd like to see, because that's basically what you're brainwashed to think at Berkeley and the modern college system. So with that being said, guys, I'm gonna get my show ready for tonight. We're gonna, Kinetic Customs, right on, man. I'm gonna get my show set up for tonight, and I appreciate the super chats and the donations, guys. This is a donations-driven channel. Every little bit that you guys give me, I give to my kids, or I donate to another channel like Reluctant Prophet, or This is a Public Service, to help get that message out there of freedom, liberty, and anti-tyranny. And so remember, homeschool your kids, homestead, grow your own food, collect your own rainwater where it's legal, because in Democrat states, they're making it illegal to collect your own rainwater. So do so at your own risk. Buy a gas generator. By the way, in California, it's illegal to buy a gas generator. Just think about that. That's tyranny. That is tyranny. And make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. And trust me, they'll do anything they can to take down this channel. Why? Because I preach the truth, and they don't want the truth getting out there. They've done everything they can to hurt the algorithm with my channel, and do everything they can to try to hurt this channel. So by saving these videos for later, by saving it for later viewing, it really, really helps push the channel in the algorithm. And going to all my shorts and liking them and subscribing to everything, and sharing on Twitter, on Facebook, sharing all of my videos and all my shorts with all your friends by pressing the little arrow and share, share, share. That really, really helps promote the channel and helps me get the message of peace and freedom. And I hope you enjoyed the lawyer workout today as well. And Mike L., you obviously don't know anything about the Marines because you spelled it with a lowercase m. But sending in the U.S. Marines to protect federal property is actually a duty of the Marines. You need to understand our federalist system. So there are federal buildings in California, and Gavin Newsom refused to have the LAPD protect those federal buildings. So unfortunately, the commander-in-chief had no choice but to surround those buildings with National Guard, federalized troops, and like 500 U.S. Marines. You obviously are clueless and don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But anyways, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi, do or die. That's right. Marines, J Sharp, 1776. Talk to you guys soon. Take care.